super excited to have Yash Kulkarni today with us. He is one of our clients, and I would leave it to Yash to introduce himself and also let us know which schools are you going to, Yash. Please go ahead.
Hello, hi Gunjan, hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. Hi everyone, I'm Yash. I've been born and brought up in Mumbai. I completed my electrical engineering from Manipal, MIT Manipal in 2020. And ever since then, I've been working in technology consulting. So my last stint was as a senior consultant at Deloitte India, where I worked in the data and AI subvertical. So I've been working with companies working on tech transformation using AI and machine learning. And most recently, pre-MBA, so I'm doing an internship at KPMG in their deal advisory practice. So I worked with the Red Pen. I applied to three schools with Gunjan. So we applied to HEC, Oxford, Said Business School, and LBS. And I'm excited to be going to LBS this fall. So I'm going to be moving to London in the end of July.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations again, Yash, on multiple offers. Was pursuing an MBA always a part of your plan?
That's a great question. So honestly, there are layers to this. So for some context, my dad actually works as a partner at a Big Four firm in consulting. So he's always been in consulting, and he himself is an engineer and an MBA. So he's always told me how important an MBA is, if I want to be in the services sector, uh, and how it's going to help me grow in a company like the Big Four or the MBB. But he told me about doing an MBA when I graduated in 2020. So I thought that was not the right time for me, to go and do an MBA. I still didn't know what I wanted to do. I was an electrical engineer who was transitioning into, the tech side of things, into a completely different industry that I had no idea about. So it wasn't always on the cards. I think, over time is when I realized that, an MBA is a degree that I actually want to pursue. And I worked for about 5 odd years. And yeah, I applied for my MBA 5 years into, my professional career.
I think it's always good to go for an MBA program after some work experience, and you'd realize more of this once you're on campus because the learning then just multiplies and it's multifold. You already have a
Yeah.
taste of the industry, and that always helps. Awesome. So, what some of the biggest insecurities or doubts you had during this process?
Got it. So I would say, I guess this insecurity is a bit common with a lot of applicants. Is that you feel like you're not good enough for these top MBA programs, coming from an overrepresented applicant pool,
Mm.
being a male engineer, Indian candidate, working in consulting, working in Big Four. I met a lot of people on GMAT Club and, a lot of these WhatsApp applicant groups who were, who looked a lot like me on paper. So that was something that I was really insecure about. I think the test scores were something that I was also a bit worried about, I'd say, not insecure really, but really worried. So I'm not the best test taker. So, it took me some time to, get the test score that I applied with. But, a big part of my journey was just getting to that score, right? So I was a bit worried about that before the whole application process started. But yeah, those are probably a few things that I was a bit insecure about.
So, yeah, coming from an overrepresented pool and being
Mhm.
a nervous test taker, I suppose these were the top two insecurities. And you're
Yeah,
right, this is something which is so common across most applicants. These are one or two of the top fears, I would say. What
yeah.
happened, and consistency is something which I saw across in your work as well. And I wanted to understand that was there any specific habits that helped you stay consistent during the application process? Because it's a long process, right? It lasts a few
Mhm.
months. So how did you stay consistent?
Got it. So I think this is a place where, the red pen really helped me. So I am someone who works really well with structure, at work and in my personal life. So having like deadlines for, submitting, let's say, essay drafts or LOR pointers or working on my CV, I think that is something that really guided me throughout the whole MBA process. whether it be Gunjan, texting me to have a draft ready by the weekend, or something like that. So I think that, and of course, as I said, I like to, be structured even in my day-to-day life. So used to put at least or keep at least an hour or two aside. So an hour on weekdays, and then I would try to put in at least 2 hours on the weekends for the application process. And the application process, is not just writing essays. It's a lot about, researching the school that you want to apply to, doing multiple drafts of, each essay. And there can be a lot of essays for, some applications, or working on your LOR pointers, or, working on your CV. It's a very iterative cycle, iterative process. So yeah, so I was just, trying to spend at least an hour a day to do something related to the application. So that's how I tried to stay consistent. Yeah.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I think sometimes you don't get too much done in that hour, but just having that hour
Mhm.
aside keeps you in the process, right? Keeps you in the thinking loop, and that really helps multiply later, especially towards the end of towards the end of reaching the
Mhm.
deadlines, right? That is the time when you just pick up and pick more momentum and get things done. So glad you
Yeah.
mentioned that for viewers. Now, why LBS? So I know that you had multiple offers, and why LBS over others?
Got it. Yeah. So I think my first admit was HEC Paris. So I was really happy with HEC.
Yeah,
And then I also got into Oxford, and I sort of thought that LBS was a long shot. So LBS has always been my dream school. I'd say that, the reasons it was my dream school are kind of the reasons that I'm going there now. So
yeah.
I love the duration of the program. It's a 2-year full-time MBA program. I think it's a bit different compared to all the other European schools, which are a bit shorter. I would say that the emphasis on experiential learning at LBS is also something that really attracted me to the program. So there are specific courses and modules such as the London Cap or Global Experiences, and actually getting to apply things that you learn in the classroom. I think that was really important for me.
Hmm.
Uh, I think London also played a really big factor.
Big role.
Being
Yeah.
yeah, being like a major city, it's a major financial hub, and a lot of companies have their headquarters there, and yeah, I think coming from a city like Mumbai, I think it was sort of an easy option because I'm not losing out on that pace. I think London was also a big factor. And then, of course, all the other characteristics of, global MBA program, the diversity I thought was really important for me.
Hmm.
Uh, the fact that, 95% of our class of about 500 odd students is going to be international. So I was really excited about that as well.
Yeah, I think that international experience really helps in getting the maximum out of the program, because you're sitting in a classroom so diverse, and you come
Mhm.
to know how people think, and that really opens up your thinking as well. So we'll move to the next section now, Yash, which is what you had given little glimpses about GMAT and GRE. A lot of clients, a lot of applicants stuck there.
Yeah.
So, how was your test preparation journey? Like, so if you could just let us know, how did that go?
So, so yeah, honestly, it wasn't a great. Like I've given up multiple times. I don't know if I've told Gunjan this either, but I think the first time I took my GRE was back in 2020. So that's when I was thinking of applying to the ISB Young Leaders program. And I really didn't know if I wanted to do an MBA, but this was an opportunity, and I was in the last semester of college. So I thought, might as well do it. But again, the blocker there was my GRE. So I took my GRE twice, I think, between 2020 and 2022. I think I scored in my first attempt, I got a 318, and my second one, my score actually dropped. So it was really demotivating at that point.
Wow.
Uh, I think I took my third attempt in 2024, so end of 24. And this is when I had I had studied and I was really confident and I thought I was going to do really well, but I ended up with a score of only 322. And again, it was just waves of disappointment. I think my final attempt came in May of 2025. Uh, and this is when I really, buckled down and I was like, this time I really have to do it. I had completed 5 years of experience and I think I had my best year work-wise, and I really wanted to capitalize on that as well. And thankfully, I got a 324. So I got a 165 quant and a 159 verbal, which wasn't, the my target score. Honestly, I would have preferred something about the 325 number.
Yeah.
But I was still happy. I was like, okay, it's not bad. I'm not out of the race. At least, it's an okay score, and I'm going to try and make up for it in the rest of the application. So, which is what I try to do.
I mean, that really talks of your resilience to be able to sit through a test so many times itself
Yeah.
requires a lot of resilience. So hats off to you for that. How important now that you've taken multiple attempts, and I'm sure that after every attempt you must be
Mm.
thinking, is this possible? Is MBA in my dream school even possible? So now that you have been a part of the journey, how important do you think scores really are in top MBA admissions?
Yeah, so I think this was something that I was also insecure about, getting into into the application process, the MBA application process. Is that, coming from India, you look around and everybody has a 330
Yeah,
GRE or a, 695 GMAT FE score. And it can be a bit unnerving. You feel like you don't belong or you're not like good enough quantitatively or whatever. Even though I come from an engineering background, it was a bit
yeah,
demotivating. But having been through the process, I can say, clearly that, your test scores are only part of the puzzle. And I
yeah.
would hear this quite often, attending all these webinars and coffee chats with different schools where they would, downplay the importance of a test score, and they would say it's not really that important. And I would, think in the back of my mind, oh, are these guys lying? And do they,
Paper.
yeah,
Yeah.
are they actually going to reject me if I don't have a 330? But now on the other side, I can, clearly say that it's not the test score, because I've met, now having been admitted to LBS, I've spoken to a lot of admits, and I can say that, a lot of people that I've met have scores that are around the same range. Of course, there's going to be, people who do really well at tests, and there's
Hmm.
a lot of people who've done really well. But there's also a lot of people, who might have average test scores on paper, but have really great profiles as well. So I'd say that, it's not as important as you think it is.
Right, very interesting because I mean that really calls out the secure insecurity, right? Like you have people
Mhm.
around with better test scores and sometimes even, let's say, better work profiles, and then you're like, am I even doing this? Am I even getting there? But if someone has an average score, let's say, how can they build a strong application? Like, what kept you motivated? What part of the application kept you motivated?
So I would say, uh, I think I was really confident in my professional career so far. So, I was someone who came from an electrical engineering background, and I pivoted to technology and tech consulting.
Yes.
And I thought I was good at what I did. So that was a part of my application that I was actually quite confident about. I knew I was good at what I did. I did get a bunch of accolades at work. And also, apart from just the work experience, I think, I don't know, I was just happy or confident with the kind of person that I was.
Hmm.
I mean, I've done like a lot of extracurricular work and volunteering for a lot of causes, from inclusion to animal welfare and uh, all of that. I had also recently completed my scuba diving certification. So, it wasn't just that I was good at work. I had a
Hmm.
life outside of work, and, I just thought I had a different story to tell, or it was not even different. So I would not say I had a different story to tell, but it was my story to tell.
Nice
So,
story. Yes.
yeah, so that's something that I was sort of banking on, that my authentic self comes across in the application, and that's all that matters, right? So if there's a fit between you and the school that you want to go to, then that's perfect. If there isn't a fit, then you apply somewhere else and you try to find another school.
I'm glad you mentioned this because I come across a lot of people who plan to quit their professional careers to take the GMAT GRE. And
Mm.
my only advice to anybody who's watching this, also for people who are applying and thinking that they're not getting a better score, so let me quit and give my 100% to the GMAT GRE. Well, it doesn't work that way because MBA as a program really respects your career and they want to see the professional growth, and GMAT GRE should be taken simultaneously. And if the reason for quitting is just to get a better score, it's not advisable. So We'll move to the next section now, Yash. This is on essays. What did the introspection process really teach you about yourself?
Uh, yeah, so I think that's a great question. I think, you know, looking from outside in, I thought, okay, how are we going to start? We'll look at the essays and then we'll start writing, right? That's what I thought the whole process was. But I think for the first month, first couple of weeks, we didn't even look at the essays. I remember we were just discussing stories about my life. So starting from childhood, stories that made me who I am,
Hmm.
personal stories, stories from school, from college, while I was a teenager, and, more recent professional stories, uh, work stories, work related stories. So I think the introspection was honestly the best part of this whole application process because it also allowed me to, pause and look back on the career that I've had, not just the career, but the life that I've had so far, right? And really sort of hone in on those values, those whatever 4 or 5 values that are really important to me. And this is something that I never thought about, right? So being in consulting, I think I was working a lot during the day and I was just in it, right? In the thick of things. And I didn't have time to sort of sit down, think about what I've done so far, what I've achieved, what my successes were, what my failures were, and all of that. So I think the introspection aspect of the whole application journey was, I'd say, the best part of the journey. Apart from the admits, I'd say that this was probably the best part of the journey for me.
I'm so glad. I think that the introspection in any sphere just helps you become more aware of yourself. And then when you take
Mm.
decisions from that point of self-awareness, you feel more confident about those decisions. And in most cases, those decisions then are the right decisions in your life. So I'm glad you
Yeah.
mentioned that the outcome of this journey was not just the admits, but also you got to know more about yourself, and that really matters.
Yeah.
What mistakes do applicants commonly make in essays, according to you?
Oh, I guess, I mean, it's 2026. Everybody has access to AI tools. Uh, and I think, the one thing that I've seen a mistake. So I've also helped now a lot of people on these, forums that have
Mm.
reached out to me and people that have just given some advice, superficial advice on their essays and stuff. And what I've noticed is that they can sound a bit generic. So your stories can sound a bit generic. And especially with these AI tools, all the essays, sound really similar. And you can tell instantly that, okay, this is not, the person has probably not written this himself or themselves. So I think, you need to write an essay that's compelling for the adcom and not from a POV of, okay, this is what's going to get me into this school. It has to be really personal. At the same time, it also has to, showcase everything that you've done in your professional career. Of course, at the end of the day, it's a business degree. And something that they really care about is what impact you've had on the organizations that you've been part of in your career. So, having a good balance of, what your personal ambitions are, what you've done so far in your career, what you bring to the table. I think that, unique mix of that is what makes a good essay or a good application.
Yeah, I always think that when I am spending my time reading anything, right, and at the end of
Mm,
it, if it doesn't leave me satisfied in terms of the time spent, I feel it's a waste
mm,
of effort. So generic essays can be
mm.
very big put-offs because everybody knows out there that there is an AI guiding you, and no matter how evolved your particular AI chat is, it will still have that generic element when it comes to storytelling. So that actually brings me to the next question, which is how important do you think is storytelling in MBA admission, in MBA
Oh,
application?
yeah, I think storytelling is super important. I remember during my first mock interview for HEC, so I was asked, what my goals were, or I forgot what the question was exactly. I think it was a why MBA. Yeah, it was why MBA, right? So I was a bit all over the place. It was my first mock interview. I didn't know what to say. And I think my mock interviewer gave me a really good guideline as to how to craft that. And I think that's something that we did in the essays as well, right? So it's supposed to be like a ladder. So an MBA is going to help you get to where you want to go. So you
Yeah.
need to talk about where you are right now, the kind of work that you've done, who you are as a person, everything that we spoke about, and then where you want to go, right? So I worked in, let's say, tech consulting. I want to move to management consulting. Specifically, want to do, XYZ thing. I'm a CA. I want to work into PE. I want to pivot to PE. And then the MBA is basically a ladder or a bridge that's going to get you there. And then when you talk about the ladder, you need to speak about, specific aspects of that school's MBA program and how they're going to help you, achieve your goals. I think so that storytelling aspect was completely missing, when I first tackled these essays or these interviews. And I was just, rattling answers that I thought were, what they wanted to hear. But I think structuring your thoughts in that way, it would be really helpful, to anyone that's starting out. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, somebody who has an US admit reached out to me and said that, what do you think should be the skills that I should be building before I go for the program? I already have an admit, but I want to use the time wisely. And
Hmm.
instantly, my first reaction was become a good storyteller, whether it's presentations, whether it is writing. Storytelling just brings in the human element. And as like growing up, we always got hooked to the line once upon a time, and then we want to know more. So similarly, storytelling always keeps the reader hooked in the story. And if I can remember you after I've read the application, means the chances of
Hmm.
you getting at least an interview invite is way higher than reading something which doesn't connect at a story level to the reader.
Correct. And
So,
one more thing. So I just
yeah,
wanted to add. So my dad, right? So my dad's been in consulting for the last about 30 years now. And one thing that he's asked me to do, in this period of, pre-MBA has been to do a public speaking course. So
yes,
according to him, building technical skills is one side of things, but having those soft skills is equally or if not more important, when you're talking to clients or when you're working day to day. So communicating, according to him, was the number one skill that you need, working in consulting. And I'm going to try and do a public speaking course. I haven't done one yet, but
yeah.
that's in the cards. But yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think communication and
Mm.
analyzing, since we are on the topic, reading something as basic as reading and
Yeah.
journaling and writing are things that helps you analyze better, and that really is a skill that goes a long way, not just in MBA career but corporate career and henceforth. So, yeah, how did your career goals evolve during the process?
Yeah. So I think that's also something that, I didn't have an idea of what I wanted to do in the future. I wanted to go into, let's say, management consulting, right? But it was super broad. And I don't think that's going to cut it for these global MBA, the top MBA schools. They want you to be as detailed as possible. Of course, they're not going to sit and check if you actually go into that career, trajectory, but they want you to have like a solid idea. They want you to research, know your stuff, know why you're doing what you're doing. And I think when I first started the application process, again, I was a blank slate. I think Gunjan helped me a lot in devising my career goals. We went through different iterations of things. It was sort of a Venn diagram of things that I was good at and things that I wanted to do, and sort of finding a good intersection in that. I remember I'd worked on a lot of like HR tech related projects, so we were doing something
Yes,
related to that. And then we moved into a bit of AI and ethics and something that I had also done in the past. So some work that I'd also done in the past and some impact that I'd had, in my current job, which, Gunjan was really instrumental in highlighting. And that's something we honed in on when talking about my career goal. So I think just like the essays and the rest of the application is going to be iterative. And the final say is going to be with you, right? So you have to talk about your career goals, you have to write about them, you need to defend your career goals during your interviews. So you need to be okay with what you're writing, what you're telling the adcom. So yeah, you need to do your research and really think about it. Again, the introspection aspect comes into play here as well. So yeah.
yeah, and it was fun working with you on your careers, Yash, because you were very open to hearing, that you
Mm.
came with a set of opinion that this is what I want to do, and then we
Mm.
had conversations, and then you were open to it and said that, right, let's explore it, let me sleep over it, and come back tomorrow and see if this is something which fits in. So, yeah, career goals.
Mm.
As a consultant, I would say I feel that it's hit the bullseye when you could tie it to your value system, and you could tie
Mm.
your past experience to your future aspirations, and you
Yeah.
don't project yourself as a risky profile, jumping industries, functions, geography all at once. So,
Mm.
and if it reflects who you are as a person, and we spoke about AI and ethics and all of that, and that really gelled well with the rest of you, of who you are, like somebody who
Mm.
really stands for inclusion, somebody who is into that space, and the value system came out very clearly from your career goals. So
Mm.
yeah, and it is an important essay. I would say this is one essay that can really move the
Yeah.
needle. Besides the school research essay, this is one that can move the needle.
Correct. And I
Uh,
guess Gunjan, just a small thing. Yeah.
yes,
So I think
sure.
one more thing is that, when I thought about, or rather before I started the whole application journey, I thought
Yes.
career goals meant, right after MBA, right? So post MBA goals meant like in a 2 to 5 year horizon. But what schools are looking for, and all MBA schools are looking for, is a long-term vision. And I think that's something that I had no idea about, right? So I thought, okay, I want to do work in this company in this particular role, and whatever. This is what I want to do. But I had never thought about my long-term career plans ever. Like a 10-year window was something that I had not thought about at all. So I think that's also an important aspect. If you're starting your journey, application journey, I think just to introspect a bit and just think about a 10-year horizon, right? So usually we think short term, at least you would think short term. But yeah, that long-term sort of vision is also important.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it is a good time to pause and introspect and reflect on where you want to take your career. So yeah.
Hmm.
We'll move to the next section now, Yash. What difference did structured mentorship make during the process? I know you've spoken about structure, and I know you as a person, you love structure, but
Hmm.
why did you think that structure made a difference?
Yeah. So again, I mean, so even at work, right? So we have a lot of deadlines. I think I don't know if you heard of doing work in sprints, and then you're breaking down tasks. You want to achieve like a big task, and you're breaking it down into subtasks, and you're trying to you set deadlines for each subtask, and so on. So that's something that's helped me do other things outside of work as well. And I think that's where the structured mentorship was really important. And I think the fact that the whole process is incremental, right? So as I said before, you're not meeting on the first day and you don't discuss essays, or you don't even talk about the schools that you're interested in. You are just talking about, your journey so far in life and all of that. So I think talking about that, that taking a few iterations to understand what your key stories are, what your star stories are, what your value system is, then moving to, the school selection aspect of it. I thought that structured way of looking at an application
Hmm.
was something that really worked for me, because it was always like these incremental steps, and it was building on things that, we had already done. So like looking at my value system, I think Gunjan would give me, a certain set of schools which actually valued the values that I was interested in, right? So I think that was also something that was great, because I didn't, just look at a school from I guess, a ranking lens or a popularity lens, but also, what those schools actually stood for and what I wanted from the schools, and if they, had the same vision. So I think that incremental process is something that, really helped as well. And yeah, just an overall structured way of working is something that really suited me, at least as a candidate. So yeah.
Right. And what surprised you most about working with a consultant?
I mean, honestly, I hmm, I think, yeah, so ideas that I would never have, right? So this is something that I'm going to face in my MBA classroom on a day-to-day basis, is opinions and point of views of other people that I might not agree with. And just opinions of other people that are coming from a different place. So like sitting in a classroom with someone who has a lot of experience in, let's say finance, and they are giving me some suggestion on, the financial aspect of a company. I'm obviously going to, listen to them based on their experience. So I think that was something that was very interesting, because, of course, you as an applicant and I as an applicant had a very specific, I started off with, okay, this is what I want to do and this is how I want to go about things. But, Gunjan would, nudge me and try to make me think about the other sides as well. And she would have her own ideas about certain essays, about the career options that we had. And she always asked me to, compare both the things that I was thinking about. So I think that was really cool. I think just getting opinions from different people, and then formulating your own opinion based on the pros and cons and based on what you think is right. I think that whole collaborative process was something that was really helpful to me.
Right. And how important do you think was accountability? I know you've spoken about accountability, but yeah, just wanted to hear your view on it.
I mean, yeah, really important. I think, yeah, I have thought about it. I mean, there's a lot of people that I've met as well who've done the application process themselves, and kudos to them to do it while they were
Mm,
working. But I think I'm someone who, likes to stay accountable. I think even at
mm,
work, in my personal life. I think this journey, MBA journey, was no different. Having deadlines, having Gunjan tell me, okay, we're running out of time. We have to do, getting on a quicker call, getting on a short discussion, and then having like a short timeline to finish off something. I think was really important for me because that's also a way that I operate and I find comfortable operating. So it was great. I mean, I knew, that I was being held accountable. I couldn't slack in what I was doing. The other person or my MBA consultants were putting in as much effort, if not more, in my application. And that's what they told me on the first day. They said, we are going to help you. We are going to help you along the way. But at the end of the day, you are the one who's going to have to put in, you know, a
yeah.
lot of effort because it's your application, right? You're not depending on them to do the application. They're just going to guide you in the application process. So at the end of the day, it's based on how much you are putting in the work that you're putting in. So I guess, yeah, that accountability aspect really helped during the whole process.
Yeah, it's like, going to a gym and having a personal trainer and saying, well,
Yeah.
just
Yeah, that's a
going
great
sometimes.
analogy. Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, all right, just seeing the person's face, you're like, oh, damn, I should have just not eaten what I've eaten, or I should have showed
Yeah.
up. Yeah. So, yeah.
Correct. And you're not going to get your fitness goals without working out, right? So the gym
Yes.
trainer is going to show you how to do it, but you have to lift the
Yes.
weights at the end of the day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. Great. The next section, interview experience. How was your LBS interview experience?
Okay. So my LBS, so by the time I think I got an interview invite. So first off, I was really surprised that I got an interview invite. I mean, it was my dream school. I was trying to temper my expectations as much as I could. I didn't want to be disappointed. But I remember I woke up I think the results came out at about 3 a.m., which was super diabolical, honestly, like staying
Yeah.
up. So I couldn't stay up. I woke up in the morning at 6 and I saw the interview invite and I could not sleep, go back to sleep after that. Like I was really like nervous, but also really excited. So my interview was actually in person. This was
Mhm.
my first interview. So till that point, done about 3 interviews for HEC, two for HEC, one for Oxford, and they were all virtual. So I think that added layer of nervousness to do like an in-person interview was also there. And my alum was actually came from a family business background who had graduated, I think, and was sort of a recent graduate, but managed, the digital side of his family business. And I think
Mhm.
that digital transformation angle sort of played into, tying into my profile. It was about an hour and a half. So as soon as I came into the meeting room, I remember it was in Bandra for those who are from Mumbai, and it was a meeting room in Bandra. And as soon as I entered the room, he was really nice and really kind, and he made me feel really welcome. And he said it's not going to be from the get-go. He said this is not going to be an interview. I want it to be more like a conversation. As soon as he said it, I think that sort of eased all my nerves.
Mm.
And then I think I was just, being myself. So of course, you need to be prepared for all the standard questions, such as, tell me about yourself or walk me through your resume, why MBA, why LBS, why now, what are your short-term and long-term goals? I think
Yeah.
any candidate that's appearing for any interview needs to have a set of answers for, these questions. And I had practiced these questions a bit, for all my other interviews, but of course, more for my LBS interview. And I think apart from that, you need to be really firm in what you believe in, and you just need to be yourself, right? So a lot of our conversation was about what I'd done in college, whereas, in other interviews that it was sort of brushed off and we spoke about my work more. So my interviewer really wanted to know, what my thought process was to move into technology, to move into consulting, and just I guess my experience outside of work or outside of studies, outside of the classroom in my college, how I contributed to a student project that I was part of, how that has helped me now. Of course, your school research has to be on point.
Yeah.
They need to, it has to show that you really love the school, you really want to go there. You need to know what clubs you want to be a part of, things that have happened in the past, or alums that you've spoken to, or current students that you've spoken to. And some insider information is always great to sprinkle in the interview. Some trek that you found out about that really aligns to your goals or your interests, and that you want to tell the interviewer about. So I think it was a really great, really chill conversation. It went on for quite a bit. And of course, I think the LBS interview also has this presentation component, which was new to me. But the presentation again was, I'd say, was quite relaxed. It's a very broad question. They're not going to ask you specifically. It's not going to be like a business case study like you have in a consulting interview, like a case study interview. But yeah, I mean, just, you need to organize your thoughts well. You don't have too much time. And you're given some time to speak your mind, and, there might be a few questions. So yeah,
Right.
so it was
Yeah.
overall, I think it was pretty, pretty great.
No, I think that's a very comprehensive, I would say, advice that you've given. Having
Mhm.
those questions in place, right, and having a structure while talking about any of the questions that's given to you. And obviously, I cannot stress enough about business school research and how
Mhm.
important it is, not just secondary research, but reaching out and knowing more about the program, so that when you enter the program, they know that you'll not be lost amidst that many resources, and you would know exactly which one to choose, which would align with your goals and take you forward. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think just having that many interviews prior to the LBS interview also helped in your
Mhm.
preparation, right? Like it just made you feel more confident.
Yeah, I that's 100% true. Yeah, especially the HEC interviews, because they're
Mm.
also alum run interviews. And this was also going to be an, discussion with an alumni. So I think that was something that was really important and that really helped me. And
Mhm.
of course, the mock interviews that I'd done. So I'd not done a mock interview before my LBS interview. I think I'd done that during my HEC interview prep. But, I think I was quite confident about my story at that point of the application process. So it happened in March. And, I got an admit from HEC in October. So it had been quite a while since, I knew what my story was. I
Hmm.
knew exactly what to say. And I just had to like practice those standard questions a bit more. And of course, there's always going to be, some excitement and nervousness, and you don't know what the interview is going to ask, right? So I've
Yeah.
spoken to so many students now, admits now, and they've had, varied interview experiences where, some people have really grilled them about their
Mhm.
post MBA plans, being from that industry really close. Uh, so yeah, you really need to be prepared for everything. It really depends on the alum. Uh, and where they're from and what their background is and how they're feeling that day. I mean, it's really,
Yeah.
it doesn't, yeah, it's not going to be like a fixed thing that, okay, if you do these things right, you're going to get in. It has to, yeah, you prepare for everything.
Yeah, no, and that is why I think if a question which you've not prepared and something very strange comes up, like you mentioned, right, just having a
Mhm.
structure makes you more confident about yourself, and the answer comes out better. So,
Yeah.
uh, we'll now move to one of my favorite sections, which is reflections.
Mhm.
What did receiving the admit call email feel like?
So, I mean, I can talk about all the admits, honestly. It
Right.
was kind of crazy. So HEC, I mean HEC, I didn't even know when I would get the interview invite. So I was just one afternoon I was working and I looked at my phone and I had an email and then I read the email through my notification bar. Like I was so excited that I couldn't even open the email
Yeah.
and I like ran out. I was actually sitting with at my parents' place. So my uncle had come to town and I was having lunch with them. And I just looked up and I'm like, oh my God, I got into HEC. And people around me just went helter-skelter. And I didn't know what
Yeah.
to do at that point. I was just stunned, honestly. And that took a couple of days to sort of settle in. I think I'll come to LBS. I think LBS, I knew when the deadline was. So I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
really prepared, and this was like my dream school. And I remember I was eating my food, I was sitting in my room, and I was so I was actually applying. So I have a really close friend, a family friend, who had also applied to LBS. So we were both, talking, texting throughout the day, and we were both very nervous. And he called. So I knew at 9:30 p.m. he started calling me, and I knew, okay, the results are out.
Out.
And then I picked up, and he's like, "Oh, they're out, they're out, they're out." And then while he was on the call, I sort of went into my laptop and I opened it, and it was such a big email. First off, I didn't know what to look at. And
Yeah.
then I saw the congratulations, and then I just ran out and I hugged my partner. And I then called my parents. We spoke for about an hour afterwards. Like, they were quite happy, and I was also quite happy. I feel like the LBS admit really kicked in, in that moment, because that was something that I was looking forward to for so long. But yeah, it felt really great that I got in. Yeah.
Yeah. Was there any moment during the process, the application process, when you felt like you're losing confidence?
Hmm. I mean, I think so. Just the way that this application process is, right? So there's so many stages where,
Yeah.
there's so much uncertainty. When you submit the application, you're supposed to wait for a month, just fingers crossed. Okay, am I going to get an interview invite? Am I going to get an interview invite? And I think in that period of time, and of course, after the interview, you have to wait for the decision. And you start overthinking everything. Like, when I submitted the application, I was like, oh, I don't think this essay is good enough, or I don't
Yeah.
think this part was, I could have made this better, or I could have done that better. After the interview, right after my interview was over, I felt really confident. I was like, oh, this was a great interview. But 1 week later, I had
You just feel like,
sort of,
oh,
yeah, exactly. Like, I
obviously.
had over-diagnosed my interview and sort of over-dissected it. Gunjan, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay. Sorry.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was,
yeah,
it
yeah,
cut
yeah.
out. Yeah. So I like over dissected my interview, and I was like, oh, did I not say this right? Or should I have added this? So I think just second guessing yourself happens a lot, at different stages. I think, what you can do is sort of depend on, if you don't feel confident, I think people around you can be really helpful to sort of ground you. Like in my case, that was my partner and my parents who were there
Hmm.
during the whole process. And of course, I had started journaling also a bit. So just writing down how I felt. I remember I journaled extensively before the LBS results because I think I was really nervous. So just how I felt and why I was nervous about, not getting in. So I'm
Yeah,
like, okay, HEC is a good school and I should be happy. But, why do I feel so, nervous and on edge if I don't get into LBS? So just sort of unpacking that, I think really helped. So yeah, just depend on people around you. I think the more support you have, the better it is. Yeah.
yeah. No, very true.
Hmm.
What sacrifice, I mean, sacrifice is a strong word, but what did you have to let go during this journey? I mean, in terms
Hmm.
of habits, entertainment, anything which you think that you changed to be able to complete this journey?
Got it. So I think, of course, if you want something, yeah, I mean, it's a cliche that you need to sacrifice something, as in kuch paane ke liye kuch khona padta hai.
Mm.
But I mean, it's not that cut and dry. But yeah, of course, uh, uh, I was doing consulting and my social life was already not the best. Like, I would
Mm-hmm.
get 2 days on the weekend where I would meet all my friends, and I was really happy. And with the deadlines approaching, the application deadlines approaching, I think I really had to like lock in, and I really had to, zone into either the essays during the application deadline, the LORs. That was quite crazy. I remember for my Oxford deadline, on the last day, I remember calling Gunjan and I was like, I don't want to apply this round. Can we
Yeah.
shift it to next round? Because I don't know, I was just not confident. And my recommender was attending a wedding somewhere, and I couldn't get a hold of her, so it was quite crazy. And I was like, I can't do this. Let's just do it in a month or 2 months. And Gunjan told me, no, you have to do it today. This is the best shot. And round three, it's going to be harder. And let's
Yeah.
just finish it off. And I remember the submission was, I think, at around 2:30 a.m. India time, and I got my LOR submitted at 11 p.m. that day.
Oh
And then I
God.
sat and I did my online Kira video essay after that, like between that time. So it was quite, crazy in that way. So yeah, so I mean, you have to sacrifice a lot. I think the interview prep was where I was really like focusing on, preparing for these answers that we spoke about. just going through your application a bunch, asking people to, look at it, to conduct mock interviews if you have friends, if you have, fellow students who are applying for whatever your MBA school, you can ask them for help. But yeah, I think there are, yeah, of course, you have to give up a few things if you want to, succeed. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think also just approaching this with a very level head and not always keeping the eye on the goal, but also keeping the eye on the process, which, Yash, I would
Mm.
say you were at it. Like you were just you did not question the process too much. Why am I writing star stories, or why am I writing such big
Yeah.
GTKY documents? And that helps come uh, put forward a better, more matured application because you're not questioning every word that you're writing and every word that you're putting in. That how is this tying back to the goal that I have in mind?
True.
Rapid fire. One word, one sentence answers. Let's get started.
Sure.
What do you
Yeah.
say? Right?
Sure, sure.
Uh,
Let's go.
okay. One word that describes your MBA journey.
I'd say turbulent. Turbulent would be a good one.
All right. Biggest myth about MBA admissions.
Uh, that test scores are everything. I guess that.
One thing applicants worry about too much.
Uh, I mean, again, I would say test scores, but as a
Yeah.
separate thing, I would just say, I guess balancing the MBA application with, your work. I think that's something
Work.
that people worry about, yeah, quite a bit. Yeah.
What dreams possible after this?
That's a good one. I'm not sure. I think starting my company one day, I think I had never even considered this,
Amazing.
before my application process. I think Gunjan was someone who, asked me a question about this, how do you feel about starting your own thing one day? And I think entrepreneurship was never on the cards for me. I never thought about it or,
Right.
thought about it seriously. But yeah, maybe one day. Let's see.
Amazing. Most underrated part of the application.
The introspection for sure.
One quality top schools truly value according to you.
Authenticity. I mean, this is going to
Yeah.
sound very cliched, but
No, but that's
it's
exactly
that.
the, yeah,
Yeah, I
it
mean, it's
is
literally that. Yeah. I mean, I used to listen to so many people talk, and I've seen so many interviews that even Gunjan's done. And I used to be like, oh, okay, authenticity,
on
authenticity. I
paper
mean,
अच्छा लग
yeah,
रहा है. Yeah.
yeah, but it really is that, you really need to
Yeah.
be yourself and know what you want to do. And it's your story, right? At the end of the day. So it doesn't matter. You're not trying to please anyone. You're just doing it for yourself. So
Yeah.
that's, yeah.
One thing you wish you knew earlier.
That it takes a lot of time to get into an MBA
Oh,
school.
yeah.
I mean, some
Uh,
context is I think I was lucky enough to start when I started. I think I reached out to Red Pen about May end. I think June is when we started.
yeah.
So we had a solid like 2, 3 months to work on my first application. And I have seen people around me, a very close friend of mine who applied, who, gave his GRE a bit later and started the process later. It gets really hectic
Yes.
when you can't foresee how much work you're going to have in the months where you need to submit your application. So starting early if you can is always recommended.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because starting early always lands up people in a better spot, both mentally as well
Mm.
as in terms of going to the final school. So,
Yeah.
one book, podcast, resource that helped you.
uh I mean, I'd say so there's this Headspace app for meditation that I use. So
Ah, okay.
earlier they used to have this Netflix interactive thing where I would do this Headspace meditation there, but I think they've taken that off now. So I think the Headspace app, but of course, the premium membership is a bit expensive. But yeah, anything I would do, I think I started meditating a bit, which really helped, calm me down.
Amazing. Coffee chats or rankings, which matters more?
I'm going to be a future MBA grad and say both. I'm going to give you a
Okay.
political answer, but
Okay.
I'd say honestly, I think it's honestly both, right? So coffee chats are
Yeah.
going to tell you, if the school is the right fit for you. Obviously, the rankings are something that everybody is vying for, and you want to. And at the end of the day, it is a big financial decision, right? Your MBA is not,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's not a small sum of money, and you need to look at all angles. So, of course, a top ranked MBA is going to set you up for success, but not every school is going to be, I guess, your school or your fit. So I guess a bit of both.
Amazing. Yash, it was such a pleasure talking to you. And thank you for being yourself, like always, in this chat as well. And I wish you all the best. Yeah,
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much,
thank you.
Gunjan, for all
Thank
your
you.
support. Even we've spoken to each other for a long time now. I think we're going to, I think in June it'll be like a year since we've known each
Yeah,
other. But yeah, it's been great talking to you, and thank you for all the help on my application, during my application journey. And I definitely would not have been here with, three admits in hand without you and the red pen
no, no,
and all your effort. So
it's all your
yeah.
profile. We just try to bring out the best in the profile. So I wish you all the best, Yash. Let's keep in touch. All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, bye,
Bye
bye.
bye. Thank you.